Welcome to Juniper Learning Bytes. My name is Zach Gibbs, and I'm a content developer in the Educational Services Department. And today we're going to discuss application firewalling. First, though, you have to ask the question, what is the need for application firewalling? Traditional firewalls are great at what they do. However, they only look at layer 3 and layer 4 data. And what about layer 7 data? There is some correlation between layer 4 ports and layer 7 data. For example, TCP port 80 is typically web traffic. It typically uses the protocol or the application HTTP. But this can be faked. We can send through, or an attacker or anybody else can send through FTP traffic. Anything else on port 80, and the layer 4 firewall is only going to see web traffic. It's not going to know what's going on at layer 7. So we have a security gap here. And so we need to bridge that gap. We need to know what's in layer 7. And also, what about nested applications? You know, with your typical layer 4 firewall, you have no control over what happens inside of layer 7. And so a nested application is something like YouTube or Facebook. It's nested inside a layer 7 application, such as HTTP in the YouTube or Facebook example. Users will typically go, open up a web browser, go to Facebook or YouTube. That information gets nested inside of HTTP. We want to be able to control that type of information. So here we have application firewall to bridge that security gap, to close that off. And we're able to use application firewalling to look deep into the application layer. And this is done through the use of the application identification engine. We're able to look at the layer 7 application, whether it be HTTP, SSL, or anything else. We're able to look deep into that application, that layer 7 application, at the nested application, determine what is in there, such as YouTube, Facebook. We can actually determine if it's Facebook uploads with photos. We can determine if it's YouTube comments. And so we can get very specific, very granular there. And then we also have protocol context. We get and then pattern matching with regex expressions, and then also direction, whether it's client to server, server to client, or both. All right, now that we know a little bit about what application firewalling actually is and why there is a need for it, let's look at our case study here. Here we have a small enterprise that's connected to 2 SRX devices in a chassis cluster. And then that's connecting to the internet. These SRX devices are providing internet services for the small office here. And one thing that has been noticed is that way too much bandwidth is being used with streaming web-based media. We need to curtail that. And one of the applications we know is one of the nested application is YouTube. A lot of our users are watching videos on YouTube. We don't really want to restrict access to the entire YouTube site. We just don't want them streaming videos from it. It's just tying up too much bandwidth. And so what we can do is we can jump to the SRX and define an application firewall rule set that will block YouTube streaming media. So let's go ahead and do that now. Alright, this is the SRX device. This is in a chassis cluster, as you can see, like what we talked about. And before we actually jump in and configure the router, let's determine which application we're going to use. And so, thankfully, there's an easy method to do this. We'll want to examine the applications, and we want to figure out which YouTube applications are out there, because as we said before, we really don't want to block the whole site. We just want to stop streaming media coming from the site. And so we're gonna look at a summary of all the applications in the application identification database. We're going to match YouTube. And something important to put out as this output comes out is that we're going to get duplicates of all the outputs. And the reason behind this is we're just doing a match, and this is pulling up the database for both chassis clusters. And so you'll see YouTube twice, YouTube comment twice, YouTube stream twice. And so that's the reason why we're seeing 2 here. But the good news is we do have something that appears to be what we're looking for. We can block the whole YouTube site, but we really don't want to do that. We more want to just stop the streaming of the videos. And so let's look at the YouTube stream, or the Junos YouTube-stream application. And we can do that by dropping the summary option and using the detail option. And we'll specify Junos YouTube-stream. Alright, let's take a close look at this. Again, we're getting the output for both nodes, and so we really only need to look at one node. And first of all, we got the name, the application type. The description is helpful. Signature that detects video streaming from YouTube. That's exactly what we're looking for. And we can look at a few other categories in here. We can look at the application tags, give you a little more description. Loss of productivity, bandwidth consumer. It's exactly our problem. And those areas are here. And, it's a low risk. We don't really have to. We're not really worried about leaking company secrets. We are talking about web-based media. It is multimedia. And then we get into the signature. This will specify exactly what we're looking for in the signature itself. We're using layer 7 protocol of HTTP. And then also we have to look at the members. And this is where the magic happens. In member 0, we have a context. We're looking at the HTTP header host. And we're going to be looking at YouTube and also Google Video, because we're going to be able, because users can pull that from Google's website as well. So we're going to be looking at that. The direction is client to server. And then we also have in the reverse direction, server to client. We're going to be matching on the context of HTTP header content type and a regex expression match of .star video / .star. And so this is exactly what we're looking for. Now that we've found the application, let's jump in, configure the router with an application firewall rule set that will block that specific traffic. So we'll go into the hierarchy under application firewall, and we'll just name the rule set whatever we need to. Name it employee. We'll just name it employee rule set, which these are for the employees. And before we get in there, we need to look at some options. We have really 2 options to consider here: the default rule option and the rule option. The default rule option must, the action in the default rule must be different than the rules in the application firewall. And the reason behind this is the paradigm is that you're going to be creating blacklists and whitelists. Blacklist, you're going to specify exactly what you want to block and then allow the rest. A whitelist, you're going to specify exactly what you want to allow and then block the rest. And which method you choose depends on what you're trying to do. In our case, we're trying to block a very limited amount of things. What we're going to do is just YouTube streaming media and then allow the rest. We definitely don't want to go the other route and create a whitelist. We'd have to specify tons of things that we want to allow and then block the rest. So we're going to create a blacklist where we're going to specify one thing and then allow the rest. So we're going to set the default rule to permit, and edit the rule, block YouTube streaming. Now we're just going to say block YouTube videos. And in here we're going to set a match, dynamic application. This is going to be the YouTube application. And then we're going to set the action of deny. And if you look at the available actions, there's really only deny and permit, because if you're going to log or count or do anything like that, we're going to do that in the firewall policy here in a second, if you wanted to do that. So there's no point in having it twice. So we'll jump to the policies, from the office zone to the internet zone. And then the policy application services for the office. take a quick look at this. We can see that we're matching on any source address, any destination address. We've got a few applications in there that we're allowing through. Junos HTTP is the one that we're concerned about because that's going to be the web media that we want to block. And then for the action, we're going to do a set permit, then application services, application firewall, and the rule set we just configured, which you can hit the question mark if you can't really remember off the top of your head, like what I couldn't do there. And then we're just going to set the rule set employee. Examine the firewall, or examine the security policy again. We can see that we have applied the application services, application firewall, and the rule set employee. Then we're going to commit that configuration. And as I always forget, we have to go to the top in a chassis cluster and commit this configuration. Alright, now that that commit is done, we'll test this out. We'll open up a web browser and go to and search for a YouTube video. Let's bring up a YouTube video. Here, I heard Juniper Learning Bytes are good. We'll check that out. Click one of the videos, and it goes to load. And not much is happening. Just spinning, as we would expect. You know, this shouldn't be loading. So right now we're not tying up any bandwidth. We're actually just waiting. The PC is waiting for a response here. Nothing's happening. And so let's jump back to the CLI. And we can examine the firewall, the application firewall rule set. Just specify all, and again it's going to show up for both nodes. We're only really concerned with node 0 right now. And as you can see, the PC is trying again and again and again, and we've actually got 13 matches here. We want to look at this. We've got 13 matches for our rule of block YouTube videos. And so we can see this is being blocked. That's exactly what we want to happen. Now users can't access YouTube to watch videos. And so we could refine our policy further and with other streaming media or whatnot and determine what else we need to block. But this is a start. This shows you that how to use an application firewall rule set to block streaming media, or you could use this to block other things as well. This brings us to the end of the application firewalling learning byte. In this section we learned that application firewalling helps us close that layer 7 security gap. We were able to configure an application firewall rule set to use the application identification engine to block unwanted layer 7 traffic. So I hope this learning byte's been beneficial, and have a great day.
Visit the Juniper Education Services website to learn more about courses. View our full range of classroom, online, and e-learning courses. Learning paths, industry segment and technology-specific training paths. Juniper Network's certification program, the ultimate demonstration of your competence. And the training community, from forums to social media. Join the discussion.